The flu bug is everywhere, it seems. Half of the kids on my street just had it last week. And viewers still have a lot of questions about symptoms, home tests, and when to actually see a doctor.
Yeah, that's right. So Dr. Kyle Coley's joining us this morning to give us some answers. Dr. Coley, seems like the flu has been especially bad this year.
It really has. In fact, they're saying that it's the worst flu season we've had in about 15 years.
Wow.
And the number of flu hospitalizations, not just infections, is actually higher than what we had at the peak of the COVID pandemic with the Delta wave. So we think there's a couple of reasons for this. One, the vaccine only seems to be about 35% effective. And part of that is a lot of people didn't get the vaccine. So if you don't get the vaccine, you don't get herd immunity. It's just not as effective. But the flu this year also seems to be making people sicker. Even younger people are ending up in the hospital with flu infection.
So the flu vaccine, was it the right concoction for this flu bug that's going around?
Yeah, so the main kind of flu that's circulating is flu A. That tends to be making people sicker. Of course, we have the bird flu as well, which is also a type of influenza, but that's a little different. But it seems to have covered it, but not completely against infection. Now, the good news is we still think if you got the flu vaccine, your flu infection is likely to be less severe, and you're less likely to end up in the hospital. But in terms of preventing you from getting the infection, the efficacy is only kind of running 30 to 35. In a good year, we expect closer to about 60 or 65%.
Because it does seem to be hitting people so hard and really quickly. I mean, what do you recommend once somebody gets the flu or if they think they have the flu?
The minute you have symptoms, you have to get one of those home tests. And we're lucky now because it's the first year that we have a home flu test as well as COVID. In fact, I just recently had the flu a few weeks ago. I sent my mom to the King Soopers to pick up a rapid swab, checked it. It lit up for flu A within a few seconds, in fact, before the control. And I knew that I needed Tamiflu. And that's really what testing does, two things. One, it helps you protect other people who might be more vulnerable if you're infectious. And two, you can get antivirals, or if you have COVID, you can get Paxlovid started early, because really within those first 48 hours is when you want to start those medicines in order for them to be effective.
What does the difference of Tamiflu do for someone who, let's say, is generally healthy, but they have the flu? What is the difference when you have Tamiflu versus not?
Yep, so anyone over 2 weeks of age can get Tamiflu. It's dose adjusted for kids according to weight. But even in healthy adults, it shortens the duration of symptoms and the severity of symptoms. So you're less infectious to others, you're out of work a little bit less, and then the peak sort of, because the way you think about the virus, it replicates, it peaks, and then it comes down. It brings down the peak and it accelerates that downstroke as well.
All right, I'm going to ask you to be a little bit of a fortune teller. How much longer do we need to, be worried about catching the flu?
So about 6 to 8 weeks. February is peak season though, so have that guard up. Right now is the peak season, but in the next 6 to 8 weeks, as the weather starts to warm up, we're going to see that flu activity go down. If you haven't gotten the vaccine, I think it's too late now to get it, but just pay attention to the hand hygiene. Don't touch things on the plane, and then touch your face and get that sanitizer out.
Things you really should be worried about all the time anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you recommend if someone has the flu and they get Tamiflu, if other members in the family should just preventatively get Tamiflu?
Yes, so if you're high risk and you have been exposed to someone with documented flu, you should start it for prophylaxis or prevention as soon as possible, because it prevents you from getting the infection. Especially this year, we're seeing a lot of pneumonias after the flu, both bacterial pneumonias, viral pneumonias, some that are leaving permanent scarring. So the more you can avoid it, it's not just the flu, the more you can avoid the infection even as a contact or exposure, the better.
Nip it in the bud right away.
Dr. Coley, thank you. And of course, you can find all of Dr. Coley's appearances at 9news.com/Dr. Coley. Chris?